Friends, Jordan Montgomery here, and we're glad that you've tuned into another episode of the Growth Over Goals podcast. Before we jump into today's conversation, we want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Thompson & Co. Salon and Parlor. Thompson & Co. Salon and Parlor is a family-owned, stylist-owned community salon that fits the needs for all types of families. Located in downtown Iowa City and now a second location in Coralville, North Liberty area, TCO specializes in all things hair. In fact, that's where I've been getting my hair done for the last 7 years. TCO specializes in hair cutting, razor cutting, the most modern color techniques, and high-end hair extensions. As one of Iowa's only intercoiffure salons and Salon Today's top 200 salons in the U.S., TCO looks forward to being the salon of choice for you and those you love. Be sure to call or book on their website today at thompsonandcosalon.com. Thank you, TCO, for all you do for us and our community. Welcome back to the Growth Over Goals podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Montgomery, and today we have a solo episode. It's just you and I hanging out, talking about a very important topic that is so often undervalued and overlooked. It affects each one of us personally and professionally, and it's the topic of mentorship. That is our ability, but also our desire to learn from those who have come before us. So often people will say things like, I already have a mentor, or I don't have the resources to hire a coach or a mentor. I want to put those two misconceptions on the table for us just right away today and let you know that, hey, you don't have to have resources to have a great mentor or a coach. In fact, there's a lot of ways to go about getting a coach or working with a coach that don't require you to spend anything at all. We're going to talk about that today. I also believe this, that just because you have a mentor doesn't mean that you shouldn't have another. The average Olympic athlete works with 7 different coaches. And so if the elite of the elite, if the best of the best are working with 7 coaches, it means we can probably work with more than one. There's a quote that I love, comes from Dr. David McClellan, a social psychologist at Harvard, who said this: 95% of our success or failure in life is a direct result of those we habitually associate with. If that's true, then it probably means the folks that we're learning from really matter. And to that end, mentorship matters. 3 big thoughts on mentorship. Number 1 is mentors provide speed. Why? Because they have experiences that we don't have. They can help us go faster, farther. I remember when I was first getting to know John Maxwell. John today has the largest coaching company in the world, 43,000 coaches. At the time, we had just a few people working on our team, and our team was small but mighty. And getting around John just taught me that, hey, there's levels to this thing. There's more that I can do. And it wasn't anything that John said, but it was being around him and his example that helped us scale our business. You might write this down. John Maxwell says, who you learn from is more important than anything they say. In other words, their example is more important than anything they directly tell you or teach you. Again, I didn't have to hear from John on how to grow a coaching business to understand that John was growing a coaching business. And I watched the way that he interacted with people, the way he thought about scale and growth, and was able to execute on growing our business and 10xing our impact. So again, get around some mentors, because mentors can provide speed. They can help you go faster, farther in your leadership journey. Number 2, mentors provide perspective. They see things that we don't see. It's true, right, that we have a really easy time seeing other people. Sometimes we have a very difficult time seeing ourselves. To that end, I was with Dale Mulliken, a mentor of mine recently, and Dale is someone who's just candid. He's always sharing feedback, and I was supposed to get together with Dale for a one-on-one conversation, and instead, Dale joined me as I had to speak to a high school girls basketball team. So I'm speaking to this team. They're getting ready to play a big game. The coach is a friend of mine, and I said, you know what? I'll jump in and I'll speak to the team. Happy to do it. And Dale said, well, we were supposed to get together for our mentoring time, but I'll just come with you and listen to your speech. So Dale comes, listens to my speech. I give a little 10-minute pep talk to a high school girls basketball team, and I thought I did a really great job. I mean, I thought I crushed it, right? These are 16, 17-year-old kids. There's about 15 of them. I thought I nailed it. Dale and I debriefed a little 10-minute presentation afterwards, And, I asked Dale, I said, hey, can you give me some feedback on the presentation, on the pep talk to the team? He said, if I was one of those high school girls, you would have lost me in the first 30 seconds. And I'm thinking, Dale, were you in the same room? Like, did you hear the talk that I gave? Because again, my pride and ego said, I thought I did a great job. What Dale pointed out is when I walked into the gym, there were about 5 freshman boys in the front row. And I fist pounded those freshman boys. I was just making connection and they just happened to be the ones sitting in the front row. But Dale pointed out, if I'm a high school girls varsity basketball player on an undefeated team and you came in and connected with the freshman boys but didn't connect with me, there's a chance you could have lost me. Okay, what's the point? Here's the point. Dale had a perspective that I did not have. I walked out of that presentation thinking that I did a great job. I thought I killed the presentation and the pep talk. Dale shared valuable perspective that helped me see some blind spots in my presentation. Now, is that a big deal? Not necessarily. But for somebody who communicates professionally, that's something that I have to pay attention to moving forward. And it was great insight. Mentors provide perspective. Number 3, mentors provide opportunity. A great mentor is going to help you expand your circle and open new doors. I've had many mentors who've helped me do this over the years. I want to give a shout out to one specific mentor. His name is Brad Lomenick. And if you listen to this podcast, you probably know the name Brad Lomenick because he's introduced us to so many podcast guests. And in fact, some of those podcast guests have actually become mentors. And so Brad is a mentor who's introducing me to other mentors. He's constantly adding value. He's helping me expand my circle. He's opening more doors. Mentors provide speed. They'll help you go faster, farther. Mentors provide perspective. They see things that you don't see. And mentors provide opportunity. They open new doors and they help you expand your circle. That was 3 big thoughts on mentorship. Now, 3 practical pieces of advice for pursuing mentors. Let's get practical. If you want to pursue new mentors, I'm going to give you 3 things to think about that will help you grow in relationship with some top-notch, first-class mentors. Number 1, study intently who you want to follow. As basic as that sounds, what's common sense is not always common practice. Sometimes we start following someone because they have great charisma or they have an impressive skill set. There's something that they say or do that we find really impressive. And I think sometimes we get drawn in for the wrong reasons. At the end of the day, if my mentor is not helping me become a better father, husband, follower of Jesus, if they're not helping me to become a better friend, if all they're teaching me is about like growing revenue, but man, I feel like they're pulling me away from my family, or all of a sudden I'm thinking about revenue too much where it's getting in the way of what's most important in my life, I probably need to be a little bit more mindful of how much time I'm spending with that person and ask myself the question, is this really a person I want to learn from? In other words, what I'm really observing and thinking about is this person's values and making sure that their values are congruent with my values. Number 1, study intently who you want to follow. Make sure you're following the right person for the right reason. Number 2, be coachable, not just teachable. There's a difference between being coachable and teachable. Make sure you're coachable. Most people will say they're coachable when the reality is they're actually just teachable. A teachable person is focused on the moment and the content. In other words, they'll sit in a seminar or they'll sit in church or they'll go to a business event and they're more than happy to listen to the person who's teaching, and they'll even take great notes and they'll create a strategy for implementation. But they fail to capitalize on the greatest opportunity, which is circling back with the person who taught them to grow a relationship and pursue the future. Here's what I want you to think about. The next time you're at an event and you learn from a leader, somebody who's teaching, it might even happen in a small group setting, or maybe it's a larger group setting. There's somebody that visits your office, or you attend a seminar and they teach something that really makes a difference. Now, you can't do this every time, but where you really want to pursue relationship, follow up with that person. Maybe 2 or 3 weeks later and say, hey, you spoke at a seminar recently. You were at this event, or you led this small group at my office. And here's 3 things that you said that really made a difference and impacted me. I want you to know that I've been taking your advice seriously. I've been taking action in these 3 areas. And I'm just reaching out to say thank you for what you've taught me. By the way, if you'd be willing to spend a little bit more time with me, I promise you two things. I'll come prepared and I'll pay it forward. It would mean the world to me if you'd be willing to give me a little bit of your valuable time. And if you're not willing to give me time, I'm still your biggest fan. I'll still support you. And it won't change a single thing about the way that I view you. God bless. Sign off with your name. Send an email, send a text, follow up. What's the point? The point is you're not pursuing a moment. You're pursuing a relationship. You're not pursuing the content. You're pursuing the future. A coachable person is relationally oriented. They're pursuing people constantly. And because of that, they end up with more mentoring opportunities. Number 3, make the leader's agenda your agenda. Mark Cole taught me this about a year ago. Mark Cole is the CEO of Maxwell Leadership. And Mark said, I've been making John Maxwell's agenda my agenda for the last 20 years. You want to really grow in your influence with a leader, with a mentor that you want to follow, figure out what they care about, and then learn to care about that thing for a season. Now, I would suggest that your values are aligned with that thing. I'm not telling you to go care about things that are outside the scope of your values, but assuming that these things are in accordance with your values, if somebody cares about a nonprofit, if somebody cares about a mission or a project, there's something that they want to bring to life or do, there's something they're passionate about, get behind them and support that thing. The other thing you can do is make the mentor's problem your problem. People ask us all the time, they're like, man, how did you grow in relationship with John Maxwell or John Gordon or Patrick Lencioni? We've been really fortunate to have some great mentors and some people who've poured into us. And I always respond with, hey, I got this great advice. Make the leader's agenda your agenda for a season. Be coachable, not teachable. Study intently who you want to follow. Make sure you're following that person for the right reason. Mentoring will change your life and will change your leadership faster than anything else. 95% of our success or failure in life is a direct result of those we habitually associate with. Begs the question, are you being mentored by the right people? My challenge to you today is to audit your mentors and the people you're learning from. Do you need to have more mentors? Do you need to have fewer mentors? Are you being mentored by the right people for the right reason? Remember, a mentor provides speed, a mentor provides perspective, and a mentor will provide opportunity. I want to give a shout out to any and all of the people who've poured into me over the years, my mentors, coaches. I've been so blessed to learn from so many. And I am the person I am today because so many people deposited in me some great truth, some great perspective. They helped me go faster, farther. And so if you've done that for me, just know that I am eternally grateful. Whether it was a small moment in time or you're somebody that I have an active relationship with today, I am grateful. And this podcast is dedicated to you. For all of you listening, thanks for tuning in. Again, Jordan Montgomery on the Growth Over Goals podcast. If you would rate, review, or subscribe to this podcast, it will actually help us move our mission of impact forward. And so we would love it if you would do that. We hope you'll tune in next time. Share this episode with a friend if you found value in it. And again, thanks to John Choate and James Roth, who do so much work behind the scenes to make these podcast episodes go. God bless y'all. Catch you next time. Be well, be great. Have an awesome day. This has been another episode of the Growth Over Goals podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Montgomery. Thank you for listening. Thanks for being here. If you found any value in this episode, I would love it if you would rate, review, subscribe to this podcast in an effort that we might move our mission of impact forward. I also want to say thank you to our producers, John Choate and James Roth of Storyline Multimedia, for all of the work that they do behind the scenes to make this podcast go. Be well, be great. Have a wonderful day.